I'm Terri Murphy, the founder of the Women's Wisdom Network and the senior editor for Realty Times Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and In the Men's Room with Murph. And today we have a spectacular woman in the room with us today. Her name is Heidi Kuhn. She was elected in 2018 as the Shelby County Criminal Court Clerk, and she's the second female ever to serve in that capacity. She has an amazing record with government work. She got the National Award for Excellence from Tyler Technologies for advancements made on computer systems that were underutilized for 2 years. And 2 years in computer land, that's like a dog years. So I want to welcome you, Heidi. She's not only beautiful, she's talented, she's relentless on fitness and caring for other women. And more importantly, even though she's a blonde, we love her here at the Women's Wisdom Network. She's also a part-time actress and model. So I'm just saying, is there anything you don't do? Windows, shirts, landscaping? What is it? What is it?
It just depends, what I feel in the moment.
That's my girl. Well, you've had to face some significant challenges in the criminal clerk's office, budget issues. I know you went through amazing staffing things, and this is where leadership really comes in, and the collection of shortfalls in program development. We all know that government doesn't work fast. Mm-hmm. And we also know that there's political undertones and overtones and other kinds of tones. And you managed to really circumvent, especially in the Memphis market, which we can talk about at your leisure, really some spectacular challenges is where I want to go with that. Tell us a little bit about the first 3 months in office.
Sure. And thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you today. I'm so glad to talk about the success that we've had in the office and some of the personal success I've had. But when I was elected in August of 2018, I was actually the second female to be elected into this position. The last one, I believe she vacated the position in 1994. So it took from 1994 to 2018 for us to elect a woman to become the criminal court clerk. And, you mentioned a lot of barriers and issues that pretty much surround being a political individual, but being a woman is equally as difficult. A lot of times you're not as accepted. And when you have had a male in this position for so long, people sort of question what you're going to be like, how you're going to be, if you're going to be the ultimate bitch, if we can say, or if you're going to be somebody who cries every day, or how you're going to be handled. So I think coming into the office, people kind of questioned who I was and how I was going to lead. And fortunately, I chose a great team to surround me, because you want to make sure that you pick good people so that you can succeed as an office. But quickly they realized that I am a leader who believes in her team, and I try and build people up, and I help them with training, and I find out who they are. And it was my understanding that my predecessor didn't really care, nor did he know the names of the employees.
I remember you, when we were on KWAM together, that you talked about how you literally got, I don't want to say down to their level, but you got into their level to know them as people. And we know that from there's biases that are unconscious biases, as you just mentioned, with a female in that position. But more importantly, in a city that's almost 68% African American, here you waltz in as a stunningly beautiful blonde white woman, and yet you do such a magnificent job of bridging the gaps, the trust factors. I mean, it was just steps away from being super spectacular, in my opinion.
Well, and I thank you for that, because I believe it's important for you to have a connection to your employees, to the people who work for you and you work with. So that was my goal. Is when I came in, I actually met with every single employee so that they could learn more about me and I could learn about them. Because I'm not an individual who believes that they are in this tower. This ivory tower is, I do get into the weeds and I roll up my sleeves and I'm working along with, not above. And that's truly what I believe. And they came to know that I was that type of leader, that I was there for them. And the fact that my entire team would go around and we did the leadership by walking around or managing by walking around. At first, they were a little apprehensive because of that, because they'd never had that before. And they were thinking we were like checking over their shoulder, making sure they were doing their job. But now they've come to realize it's who we are, and they appreciate that. And I think I've had great success. And I think that when employees come to me and say, we are so lucky to have you, that just makes my day. I feel so great with everything that we've done, not only within the office, but for the community, that I believe I am where I should be. Because people question me all the time, why would you want to be an elected official? And why did you choose to be a criminal court clerk? Well, I have the background of victim and offender services, so that made sense. But I also felt that I could make a difference and change the face of the elected official.
Well, you absolutely did that. One of the interesting things that you did right out of the box, though, was we talk about campaign promises, which everybody's like, yeah, whatever. But something really near and dear to your heart was to implement an expungement program. And your core value is just because you've had it passed doesn't mean you can't have a future. And that just speaks to all of us. In 2.5 years, 13 expungement clinics in the community have been completed, 2,500 expungements. Tell us why. I mean, what of all of the massive issues you have to deal with, did this one become such a focus for you, such a mission?
Well, I think for anyone that knows, we have a crime issue here in Memphis and Shelby County, and we cannot keep doing the same thing because we're going to get the same result. So if you've got an individual that could have an expungement and could really expunge their record, then they won't go back to a life of crime. We will reduce the recidivism rate. So what was near and dear to my heart is to make sure that we allow people who can be expunged that opportunity. So those 13 clinics we held all around the community, so we were going to them instead of them having to come to us. Expungements were done in the office before I came to be elected, but in 2 years, my understanding is they only did maybe 500 expungements. And in the 2.5 years that I've been here, we have done over 2,500, which is pretty significant. And it means so much to me.
Well, not only that, but here's an element you kind of skipped over, and I just want to punctuate this, and that is you brought it to them, because so often after they've been through the system, they don't know, they don't have the background, the tools to figure out what can they do, especially if it was in error or, like you said, it was expungible. And so you literally give them a brand new lease on life because they can't get mortgages, they can't get credit. There's so many elements that if we can fix that, again, you're saving taxpayers, you're saving lives, you're saving families. I mean, this is something that goes way beyond your knowing. And so I've got to say, 2,500 people and their families and their communities have a new lease on life because of what you've done.
I think so. And the great thing is now they're able to get a job, because so many people have not been able to get a job. And a lot of these people didn't even know that they had expungible cases. And I have to share one of the most heartwarming stories is a young individual who had a record. We were able to expunge him, and he came out of there and he wanted to meet me, and he had tears in his eyes, and he asked if he could hug me. And he said he had some part-time jobs and he worked for a temp agency, but he told me, now I can get a full-time job with benefits so I can take care of my children. This is why I do this. It warmed my heart. It was so important to me, and it just brought it all home that this is what we need. This is what the people need. And it is just something that I believe in because it helps the community. It reduces the recidivism rate. And it's not just one subpopulation. This really touches, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or independent or what racial background or gender, it touches everyone. And this we can do together to help them.
Well, it didn't end there. And again, as I mentioned earlier in her introduction, if you're with me, a runner, a triathlon, certified BA, I like it to say badass, but I realized to the extent, but she doesn't stop. And one of the championing things that you did in the community was on a much more granular level. Tell us about what you did with providing prom dresses for girls who couldn't afford one. I mean, we know that a good percentage of our community is under the poverty rate, but come on, you're a kid once. Prom is a big deal. Winter clothes for Union Mission. I'm a big supporter of Union Mission. It supplies food and resources for the homeless, personal hygiene kits for women in domestic violence shelters, 200 sack lunches. I mean, really, everything you did was right up there with, Mother Teresa. The other thing, disaster relief collection items for victims of the Nashville tornado. Seriously, a lot of people don't know that because it's in the news, it's out. But you and I both know the lingering consequences that happen with that. Food drives, toy drives. Tell us, what vitamins are you on, and do you want to share?
Well, I can tell you, Terri, giving back to the community is so important to me. And being an elected official, I believe this allowed me a platform to be able to do it because, again, as a campaign promise, I stated I would be giving back to the community. And a lot of people say, oh, yeah, sure, you will. Well, it was something that we did as soon as I came into the office. And what is so great is that I soon found that my team members have as big of a heart as I do. And they were so willing to give. And these individuals are people that don't make a lot of money. I mean, let's just be honest. Some of these positions in this office are lower level, entry level. They don't make a lot of money, but boy, do they give. And I have an employee here who's been here for over 30 years. And he said, we have never done anything like this in this office before. We have never given to charity. We have never collected items. And he was just astonished that we would do that. And not only would we do it, but do it with such great success. So we did begin with the domestic violence kits, hygiene kits for women, because we knew that if a woman escapes a home, she probably is not packing those things that she needs, shampoo, feminine hygiene products, things like that. So we created 200 kits for women in shelters, collected canned food items, which was really important this last year because of the pandemic, but had done it previously last Christmas, collecting coats and scarves and hats for the Union Mission. We're located at 201. We do see a lot of homeless individuals around the building. So,
and for those listening, 201 is downtown Memphis.
Yes, 201 Poplar is downtown Memphis, and
generally you don't want to have to be there unless you don't want to have to be summoned there. So I just wanted to give that context of where you are.
Yeah. So and you had mentioned the prom dresses, and this was something that we worked on. We have a lot of women that are here in the office, and they were willing to give up their dresses. Some went out and bought dresses, and we just collected them and provided, I think it was about 100 dresses to women, to girls who didn't have one for their prom. And we've done that for the last 2 years. I did it the first year, but then the office wanted to help. So then I had additional women do it. So I love that we have a big heart because, it's not about the giving, it's about making a difference.
And so, and I want to punctuate that for just a second. So it all sounds altruistic, but here's the key. Your team was empowered with the same core value and mission statement to do better. And when you're in a government position like that, you're limited with funds. So it took a village basically to make this happen. It's easy to understand why the County Officials Association of Tennessee wants you as a leader in the field, because clearly you get it done. And you get it done with empowerment, not power over. And I think that's an important issue. I didn't know, though, that you were director of training for Shelby County government. I had been participatory in that several years ago. An entire training program from conception to full operational status. So that's another level of engagement. Anybody can train. but it's the outcome from the training that implements the actual implementation of the new training. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was tapped by the mayor at the time to be the director of training, which we did not have a training program here in Shelby County government. We had it years ago, and then it went away for several years. And he had requested that I create it from the ground, which started off with just me. And if anyone knows about training, they know how difficult that is, especially when you have about 6,000 employees here in the county. So fortunately, so I created a concept and what I wanted to do, created a website with the assistance of IT for people to sign up for training. And it's funny when I think back when I first started it, when people were signing up for training, I didn't have a website. So everybody was sending me things via fax, forms via fax. Yes, just so just think about how technology has changed since then. So I did that, and then I had about a staff of 6, and we would provide training online as well as in person. And I also created what I called a supervisor school for potential supervisors to be elevated so they have an understanding of what it takes to be a supervisor, and some of the ethics training and Title VI and Title VII training, just all of that, as well as soft skills training. So I feel that that's sort of a badge of honor because it still is in existence today. It may look a little bit different, but I got to be the one that started it.
And I think that's incumbent upon all of us for our legacy is what do we do to impact the lives of others? And when it's in a positive way, and when you impart, so one of the misnomers I learned from moving to Memphis was that even though there are resources, that doesn't mean everybody's aware of them.
Right.
And so when you create an awareness of a contrast of, oh, I didn't even know about that, then people advance their skill set and their engagement into the training. I mean, it's one thing to train. I know that you held a position of adjunct professor here at Christian Brothers University teaching business and leadership. That had to be fun as well.
It was. I really enjoyed that. And I think that there is a combination of, you can have a business degree, but do you have that leadership degree? And are you able to be a leader even though you're within business? So it was fun to implement those joining concepts.
Let's talk about leadership for just a second before we go into the 500 billion other things you've done. And that is that leadership has shifted in the perception of leadership, although sometimes has not. When you're an official, that's an authority. An authority means that, it's my way or the highway. It's a highly regulatory kind of position when in fact you made it totally a team effort. And by switching that power, you got buy-in because you had no buy-in from our earlier conversations from some of these people because they had never been recognized. And so what would you talk about leadership today as it compares to leadership when you had to take office?
I think that a lot of times people think that when they're a leader, then they just say what needs to be done and do it my way or it's the highway. And I don't take that. I don't subscribe to that. I believe that you need to have, like you stated, the buy-in. You need to talk to the employees. And I think it's a group effort. I may make the ultimate decision, but I think it's good to have the input of employees, which I don't think has ever been done, especially in this office. And I also think that women take a different approach to leadership. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we can look at as being harsh or we have something to prove or we're too soft. But I also think that we have a different thought or a different process on how we should lead. And I don't know if it's ingrained in us, if it's a maternal instinct or what it may be, but I think that we really want to empower our employees and have them do better because ultimately that makes the office succeed. So, my thought is with leadership, somebody can follow a leader or they can also lead themselves. And that's what I empower these individuals to do is I want to make sure that they're able to make decisions on their own and work autonomously and have that confidence within themselves because I'm not always going to be there, but they need to have that self-esteem and that confidence within themselves to succeed.
So that's Harvard Business Review recently wrote a whole piece on that. And leaders develop other leaders. That's what good leadership does. But it takes trust. And you talked about women, and we know that when we wrote the 1 Minute Negotiator as an example, that women are highly adaptive. We have to be. The whole conditioning over history is that if you've got a baby who's needing to be fed and crying, you don't go, excuse me, I'm on break for the next 10 minutes. So we understand empathy, not sympathy, but empathy means that we listen and we give authorship. So leadership, as you said, is empowering other people to be their best them, which is pretty much, although you're not a Memphis native and neither am I, doesn't mean that it's not home, and you're passionate about what you do, and you encourage these people continuing in this line of work, which I think you're never really going to be out of. I think that people who have the heart to advance people in professional and personal goals, it's not just professional, because professional is personal. And when you understand that, you understand their families improve, their families advance, everything. It brings the entire community up, which is where we started with this, is with you being a leader that understands authorship and gives people the permission and the tools to be their best selves. Is there anything besides the fact that you've helped minimize opium addiction in the country, that you're continuing to help people have useful lives, even though they've made a mistake in the past? What would you say to women in your kind of position? I don't know that there's enough women.
Right.
So let's talk about that for a second.
I think one of the things I would say is, and you mentioned I have a position of authority, which is true. I'm an elected official, which may mean something to someone else, but I'm Heidi Kuhn too. And so I'm a real person. And a lot of people have said to me, wow, you are so different than what we consider as an elected official. And I take that as a compliment, because I said I was going to change the face of the elected official. And what I meant by that is I'm going to be out in the community. I'm going to be personable. I'm going to be talking to staff. I'm going to be me. And there are so many people that will tell you, oh, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't post that, or you shouldn't say that because you're an elected official. And my thought is, why not? I'm a real person. And I think that people, if you can be relatable, I think people will appreciate you more. And I have found that a lot of, kind of like the bees to honey sort of thing is, you don't have to be offstandish or believe that you are better or superior than anyone else, because I don't believe that. I believe that I am a person and I am on everyone's level and I treat everyone the same. It doesn't matter what position you hold. I'm going to treat you the same. And I can always find something in common with anybody. I don't care who you are. So all I would say to anyone in any sort of position is be your true, authentic self, because no one else can be you but you.
Yeah, everybody else is taken. And, but you're annoying because you're so, other than consciously competent with that, and disciplined and focused, but so sincere and so authentic and so transparent in your mission. It's not hard to see why you were a recent recipient of 40 Under 40 award here in Memphis, and then one of the 50 women who make it.
That wasn't recent. It was still an award. It was when I was under 40. Now I'm over 50, but
it doesn't make any, if you're over 50, everybody's going to hang themselves now. Okay. Because there's no excuses. This woman has it together, but it's really about clarity of purpose and the correct use of, I'll say, power, because the power is with, and people come towards you. That's a super attractor. I want to thank you for joining us here at the Women's Wisdom Network. Messages like yours let us know we're on the right track, because when you take ego out of the equation and you replace it, and I'll call it with the love app, which is not, to be soft or sympathetic, but when you understand that people do the best they can in the moment, and you get out of judgment, get into curiosity, is when we are able to make a difference. I hope you'll join us again soon, because God knows you're going to do something tomorrow, if not later this afternoon, that we're going to need to know about. How would someone reach you for to get another interview, or to speak with you, or to consult with you?
They could always call me at the Shelby County Criminal Court Clerk's Office, and that phone number is 901-222-3200, or they could email me at heidi.kuhn, Kuhn, at shelbycountytn.gov.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for joining us on Women's Wisdom Network. We're going to continue to bring women of power to our community, our sphere, so that we can be our best selves. Thanks for joining us.